made progress and we are making progress towards a better deal for the people of Trinidad and Tobago with respect to these matters. So, Madam Speaker, I was minded to listen to my friend from Caroni Central because I really wanted to hear what he had to say because he's a great advisor. But somebody mentioned the burden of CLICO. But the superior mentioned the burden of CLICO that she had to carry and she meet. All I can say to her, Madam Speaker, when you feel that burden on your back, that twisted your back, ask the chairman of the audit committee of CLICO what happened at CLICO to put that burden on your back and the rest of the country. Because the advisor for Caroni Central, as far as I seem to recall from the Coleman inquiry, whoever it was the chairman of the audit committee of CLICO. He was auditing CLICO when CLICO was heading for disaster and end up in the DPP office. I hear a question, where's the Coleman report? I came to this parliament and I told Siparia when she's infrequently here that the report could not be laid here because I was written to by the DPP and told not to lay the report here. The report is at the DPP's office. Right? Madam Speaker, you could debate that on Monday night. You invite them? Him? Me? I am for heaven, my dear, not for hell. Madam Speaker, my colleague from the Martin Northeast talked about doing more with less. Let me give you a few examples, because this issue in front of us is about me as Prime Minister spending some dollars to educate the people, to communicate with the people. Under government's heading, there's a heading in the government's accounts called promotions, publicity, and printing. Yes. Promotions, publicity, and printing. As the Jamaicans will say, here how it go. 2011, 1.8 million. 2012, 6.8 million. 2013, 1.3 million. 2014, 1.9 million. 2015, 1.6 million. 2016, 820,000. 2017, 285,000. And 2018, 379,000. So in the 3 years of the PNM's leadership under my direction, promotions, publicity, and printing cost this country 1.4 million. In the equivalent 3 years of my colleague from Siparia's rampage, it cost this country 10.1 million.
No big deal, man. No big deal.
Madam Speaker, there's the government total for that heading, promotions, publicity, and printing, not just the Prime Minister office. I just gave you the Prime Minister office. And you see the big difference from a year of 6 billion to a year of 379,000. But that heading runs across the government. Virtually every ministry spends money in there. Hear how it goes, according to Jamaicans. This country that had all kinds of priorities found money to spend in promotions, publishing, and printing. The tune of $731 million in 9 years.
Wow.
But if we're comparing how we see it,
Yeah.
the first 3 years of the UNC under those headings, they spent $411 million under promotion, printing, and publicity.
$500 million.
The first 3 years under this government, where even if we wanted to do that, the money wasn't there. But because we are prudent and making savings to make sure that the government acts more efficiently, the 3-year period under this government, that same heading in the government accounts will show that this government spent 119 million as against 411 million. So, Madam Speaker, That is how you deal with the situation. Just cut out the splurge, because I'm sure, Madam Speaker, the country didn't do as well because we didn't have the funding to do as well. But we survived. Because $411 million in publicity and communication. And you heard, Madam Speaker, you heard my colleague from Portsmouth North talk about how that communication matter was dealt with. That, Madam Speaker, is how the money was being spent. So you could see how it ended up at 400 million. And of course, I know the government has friends and fans, you know, because those who were getting that money have to be in love with you all. But the gravy train done. Good government reach. And I could give you one assurance, there's nobody in my bed who's spending taxpayers' money in the way that my friend has outlined with respect to the spouse of the Prime Minister. Directing government expenditure. My wife has absolutely nothing to do with public money in this country. Madam Speaker, you heard, I heard reference being made to NGC. The yellow garbage truck was demonstrating the sucking of 17 billion, what's the figure? 36. Anyhow, I did not have 36 billion in my diagram. The Minister of Finance spoke about it. The 17 billion coming out from NGC and going in the garbage truck, the yellow garbage truck. That was the situation.
29 billion.
There too, Madam Speaker,
29.
over and above the money spent by central government, the government-owned National Gas Company also had a heading of communication, advertising, and branding. Madam Speaker, ordinarily, NGC would have been spending about $20 million in that kind of heading. Over the period 2013 to 2015, the National Gas Company, taxpayer money at National Gas Company, over and above the 700 million spent in the government, at NGC, they spent 494 million.
In communication.
So in terms of taxpayers' money spent during that period, add 494 million to 700, over $1 billion in communication, advertising, and branding. And among the branding, you may recall, what is happiness? Happiness is the UNC spending money like this, and happiness is for those who are getting it. Nice work if you can get it. One of them came with a wheel after and we're just spinning the wheel. Spinning the wheel. This is spinning the wheel of taxpayers' money. There was an increase, Madam Speaker, 2013 to 2015. It was 57 million in 2013. In 2015, it was 238 million at the NGC.
Advertising.
Of that, Madam Speaker, the house that ran, one of the houses that ran the UNC election campaign, Ernie Ross Company, Ross Advertising, he got 31 million. And listen to this, Madam Speaker. It's one thing to be spending money like that. But the NGC is reporting that invoices were coded and paid on contracts outside the contract period. 198 invoices were paid which could not be linked to a contract valued at 8.7 million. Invoices descriptions were vague and referenced other invoice numbers not attached to the invoices processed. Invoices were processed without user department approval and not stamped by accounts payable to $16 million. And Madam Speaker, 494 million under this government. That company in 2016 spent 30 million, and in 2017, 15 million. That's how it goes. Under the UNC, 494 million.
In one company.
We've brought down that annual expenditure to 15 million for the year, and the NGC is humming along. Madam Speaker, who was getting this money?
Exactly.
Who was getting this money? Madam Speaker, there was one particular company that was building a house for a senior government official. When they got the job, they paint off the name of the equipment and went and did the job. One would have thought that you'd be proud to know you're working for a high-ranking government official because you're good. Paint off your name because you don't want to link that contract to government money. Madam Speaker, in 2013, and this is not new, because this was raised in this House before and in public platforms, but it's now in the records of the company. In 2013, on September 2nd, there was a pre-tender meeting for the Beetham wastewater plant, where the last government committed over $1 billion. Here how it go, according to Jamaicans. September 13, you invite tender. The pre-tender meeting was September 25th, 12 days later. Deadline for clarifications, October 9th. Closing date for tender, October 28th. What a hurry. So between September 2nd and October 28th, they went through all these processes and awarded a contract for over $1 billion. That, Madam Speaker, is the yellow garbage truck. That is how you suck money out of the taxpayer's account. From September 2nd to October 28th, you go through all that process and you award a contract for over $1 billion. But listen, 15 bidders attended the site visit. Only 2 bids were received because bidders requested more time to submit bids.
Of course.
And 13 of them requested more time. $1 billion project, you're giving me 2 weeks to respond? They rejected that. So they only got 2 bids. One particular bid of the 2, one of the bidders in seeking clarification made 44 pre-bid clarification questions. There were 44 questions asked by one bidder in the pre-bid period. They refused to extend the period and to answer. And of course, after they awarded the contract, they did 15 addenda to the RFP at the NGC. And Madam Speaker.
Honourable Member, the original 30 minutes are now spent. You're entitled to 15 more minutes to wind up your presentation, if you wish.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, they awarded the contract to a company called SIS for $162 million US. Contract commenced in March 2014 and should have been finished by December, by 18 months later. As fate would have it, Madam Speaker, that contract was terminated. Contractor left the country. No allowance for advance payment existed in the RFP. However, it was negotiated into the contract after the award, and an advance payment of $200 million US was made.
Small thing.
Small change. It wasn't part of the arrangement. It wasn't part of the contract. It wasn't part of the tender. But after they award the contract in that way I just described, they then gave the contractor a check for $200 million. Madam Speaker, when the contractor ran away from this country, the contractor had been paid 85% of the contract sum, but only 45% of the work was done. And Madam Speaker, if my colleagues could sit down here today and feel good about this, and not feel any shame about this, Madam Speaker, they have no right coming within 1 mile of public money.